Hi everyone! Have you ever asked yourselves about how can the cultural traits of a different country influence on your residents? Have you noticed any differences in the behavior of representatives of other countries? Have you ever felt uncomfortable because of unawareness of local traditions and habits of native people? 14 years ago, I went abroad for the first time in my life. I was a second-year student at the time, and my choice was done for the US. My friends assured me that I would likely have cultural shock of huge difference in behavior. I was mentally ready for that, but eventually it was not enough. I faced lots of differences in the American way of behavior. Just imagine, I arrived to the US, and after changing several buses, very exhausted and hungry, I got to the center of a small coastal town late at night. I didn't realize where to go at all. I had only a small note with the address of a student hostel. I met a couple of people walking around and decided to ask the direction. They explained me where to go with a bright smile. Wow, they were smiling. They were so different to Russians who almost never smile to unknown people. It seemed very strange to me, and I thought that they made fun of me. So I followed my way and decided to ask another passerby. And again, I got that bright smile with the direction where to go. I was totally confused. Why did people smile? Perhaps there was something wrong with me or I looked funny. I got to the hostel, looked at the mirror. Okay, that was nothing wrong, and I looked fine like an average student. The next day, the situation repeated. Unknown people again talked to me easily, and again, they smiled. Only then I found out that it was a normal way of behavior for Americans to easily talk to unknown people and smile like they are friends, even if they hadn't met you before. As I mentioned, that is so different to Russians who are quite reserved and almost never smile when they speak to the strangers. And that was my first cultural shock, which I still had a lot to experience. Next year, I went to Sweden for training. The country is located much closer to Russia than the US, so I didn't expect too much cultural difference. However, Sweden was full of surprises. When I just arrived to the airport of Stockholm, I went to a shop to get some water. I took a bottle of water and stood in line behind an elderly woman paying at the checkout. She turned to me with an angry glance and said something in Swedish. I understood that I did something wrong, got confused, looked around, and was surprised to find that there were several more people at a distance from the counter, waiting for their turn. They all stood at a decent distance from each other. Today, at the time of COVID pandemic, it sounds reasonable, but not 13 years ago. At that time it looked strange, at least to me. I went out to the bus stop where a large number of people gathered waiting for the bus, but they were not all standing in a dense crowd, but scattered around the stop. Everyone kept a distance. The same situation was in a bank, at a post office, in a market. People didn't stand in dense lines, but kept a considerable distance from each other. Subsequently, I learned that Swedes are really serious about their personal space and try to protect it. They can't stand when someone breathes down their neck. Well, at that time, I started realizing how different we are in culture and mentality. Similar at first impression, cultures may have serious differences in local traditions, preferences, and habits. Today, I work for Softline. I'm involved in global business development of e-commerce business unit. Many years passed since my first trip abroad. I added plenty of new stories to my culture and mentality portfolio on a personal level. But what about the business? Does understanding of other cultures impact the business? Is it helpful to use the knowledge of cultural specifics at driving global business? Is it worth relying on the cliches? Our team has dozens of negotiations with global partners. Special focus is at emerging markets, Latin America and Asia. While preparing to the negotiations and meetings, we pay special attention to culture and traditions of the targeted country. We are convinced that understanding of cultural differences of our partners is one of the major factors of successful negotiations. And here is a good example. While expanding our e-commerce solution to Southeast Asia, we faced serious issues with remote communication and establishing contacts with local partners. Well, what to do? We made the decision to go to Asia and have face-to-face meetings. And that was the right call. Thanks to those direct meetings, we could build good, even great, interpersonal connections with our partners. The key point there was our sincere desire to understand the cultural specifics and differences. At the meetings, we talked a lot on off-topic matters related to Asian culture. We were really eager to understand it better. We asked questions about mentality, cuisine, traditions, everything. There was a funny story. We had 2 hours meeting in Malaysia with representatives of local payment provider. And roughly around 40 minutes out of those negotiations, we were talking about fruit called durian. They told us that the Malaysian durians are the best in the world, how much they cost, what are the essentials of this fruit, how to choose the best one, and so on. That was really interesting. Perhaps it sounds a bit funny, but these small details like off-topic conversation about durian are very important to set up great interpersonal relations. And there is no need to say that those negotiations went smoothly and we settled the deal. And here I come with first couple of advices. Advice number 1, be open-minded and ready to accept the cultural differences. It's absolutely okay that cultures differ. Advice number 2, be sincerely interested in the culture of the targeted country. Do not be afraid to ask your partners about local habits and traditions. Instead of considering you annoying, they will appreciate your interest in their culture. On top of that, if you learn some words in local language and some historic facts, you will get even more favor of your partners. In negotiations, we also notice some traditions and try to follow them. In Asia, at our first meeting, one of the partners gave me his business card. Well, nothing special, but the way he did it caught my eyes. He gave his business card with both hands and slightly bowed. So I decided to do the same way at next meetings with other Asian partners. And it proved to be very successful. So, advice number 3, always learn local traditions and try to follow them. Even if you cannot follow them, be respectful to them. When it was decided to expand our solution to Turkey, we didn't have relevant experience with Turkish business partners and expected time-taking negotiations. The stereotype says that Oriental culture has strong background in this market. So we got ready for leisure and relax in decision-making from our Turkish business partners. We extended timings for our project launch and therefore put ourselves in very tough conditions with our annual KPIs. And we were extremely surprised after several negotiations and changed our mind totally about doing business in this country. Turkish partners were really active at negotiations and most of the time drove the process. They were eager to push the business quickly and efficiently. We launched the projects much earlier than it was planned, and that was totally opposite to the cliché that we knew. Advice number 4, stereotypes or clichés are good when they work, but killing when they do not work. So please be careful with them. Don't build your point of view on online resources or dealing with one representative of the targeted country. You are smart enough to make your own conclusions. Overall, this is the way cultural background impacts the business, helps settle the deals. But I have something more for you. In our work in Softline, we aspire for perfection, and we are convinced that the culture impacts not only business negotiations, but product development as well. Before entering a new market, our team carefully studied traditions and habits of local citizens in order to localize our product and make it convenient for local users as much as possible. When we just started growing globally, we expanded our solution to Latin America, to Brazil in particular. We thought that the product we applied for Russia and CIS would give us great results in Latin America as well. But what we got in Brazil made us change the strategy. The conversion to purchase was much lower than expected, at least by 20%. So we made thorough research on local shopping behavior patterns and updated our product accordingly. Well, after that, the conversion to purchase increased by 30%. Do you know what was the secret? It was as simple as that. We just changed the color of interface and slightly updated customer journey. Unlike Russians preferring moderate colors and customization options, Brazilians chose bright interface without customization. This is the specific of local mentality. So the localization methodology has proved to be successful many times and helped increase the volume of our business at the other markets. Summing up, I'd like to say that the knowledge of the cultural traits of your target market helps you build strong partnership and efficiently customize your product to local needs. Explore and grasp the culture of your targeted country. Accept the culture of the country for your business. Respect the culture of your business partners and clients. Do not trust stereotypes too much. Integrate local traditions with your product. I'm sure that the compilation of culture and business will help you drive your business globally. There is a saying, nothing personal, just business. But the business itself starts from personal relations. Thank you.